Hey, everybody, it's Rebecca Johnson of Supergirl Radio. Thank you for joining us. This week, we're going to be talking about Krypto, the Last Dog of Krypton, #1. And I suppose he is the last dog of Krypton. He does find himself in a wormhole that takes him to Metropolis. So we're going to be talking about that as soon as Morgan joins me. So if you have any Krypto thoughts, please leave them in the chat. We'll be talking about this comic book as well as some James Gunn news from an interview he did with the DC Studios Showcase podcast. So he talked about Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow. He talked about, he talked about Lobo. He talked about Craig Gillespie, and he talked about Millie Alcock and the casting for Supergirl. So we're going to go through that. There's a clip that's about 6-ish minutes long. And we'll kind of start and stop, do some commentary on that, and see how we're thinking about some of the things that I was going to say Tom King, because James Gunn also talked about Tom King in that interview. So we'll see what James Gunn said about Tom King, and we will discuss it. Morgan, are we ready? I sent you the doc? Yes.
It's somewhere.
Okay. If I haven't, please let me know. Actually, I don't have it pulled up. Oh my.
Uh-oh.
Let's get that corrected while we're here. Because I definitely did that. I hope you're recovered from your trip to Aruba. Looks like you
It
had
was
time.
really nice. I managed to not get sunburnt too bad, which I
That's
think
good.
for somebody as pale as me is an accomplishment.
It is hard, yeah.
Yeah, it's very hard. I got one of those like little zip up things that have long sleeves, and I was like, "Not today, son."
Not attacking me today. Well, good. Well, I hope you had a pleasant time, very restful vacation. Supergirl Radio, after this episode, is going to take another break. I'm so sorry to our listeners. We will have 2 episodes of panels that we're going to put out from Superman Celebration, so you won't miss us much. You might miss us for like 1 week, and then we'll come back at it with a Superman movie review as we, go just for Supergirl and watch it, and then come back and discuss it. So we will have a little bit of a vacation period here for the podcast, but once the end of July comes, we'll be right back at it, and we'll be getting into everything. Oh, are the lab cats okay?
Hey, buddy. I don't know.
Which one is talking?
Oh, it's Beaker. He's just walking around with his toy crying. So I think everybody's all right.
He really had something to say.
He had a lot to say. He was like, I haven't been on in a while. So
Beaker really hasn't.
I know. Beaker's like, no, I'm stepping back from the limelight.
Okay, well, let's go ahead and officially get started because we have a lot to cover. So we are going to be talking about Krypto, the Last Dog of Krypton. I think we are. Why is the button not working?
McGurk! I love
Not
typing.
mess with my Google Docs, Meeksy.
Supergirl Radio is going live every night of the week. How do you like it? Is becoming a human burrito a plus or a minus? I don't know. It does seem snug.
I mean, they say you are what you eat.
Kira. I love that.
So I do a podcast called Supergirl Radio, and one of our segments is Lena Luthor Boardroom or Ballroom because
She looks like a boss in this coat.
Nasty Luther like a different Luther? It's not just Lena being mean?
No.
Helen Slater here. So fun to know that you're hosting a podcast called Supergirl Radio.
Oh, StreamYard is being really weird. Did that cut off early to you? That felt early to me. I don't know if it's on my end or not. Okay.
I don't know. Maybe
StreamYard's
a little bit. Yeah.
StreamYard's being maybe a little bit buggy for this week. So sorry about that, everybody. Welcome to Supergirl Radio, your source for all things related to the character of Kara Zor-El. My name is Rebecca Johnson.
I'm Morgan Glennon.
And for this episode of the podcast, we are live and wired to discuss and review Krypto, the Last Dog of Krypton 2025, number 1. So we are going to be talking about, this is a new comic book series all about Krypto. He is there. There are humans talking with him. So it's not just, dog thoughts for the entire issue. Though I think we would still read that.
For sure.
Would still read. But there are humans that talk. So we do have some information about what is happening in the issue. So we're going to be talking about Krypto, the Last Dog of Krypton, number 1. But before we do that, we need to get to
The news.
James Gunn was recently on the DC Studios Showcase podcast talking about Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, Lobo, his collaboration with Tom King, and casting Millie Alcock as the Girl of Steel.
And I thought what we could do, because it's maybe 6-ish minutes long, there's a section of the podcast where they talk about all of those things, specifically Supergirl related. So I thought what we could do is we could present it, and then we could comment on it little by little as we go through it and see what we have to say about it. So hopefully, let's see, I'm going to try to pull it up right as they start talking. But this is something I thought was kind of interesting in terms of what they had to say. So let me know if you can't hear it, Morgan, and we'll go through it. So here we go.
Supergirl comic, I maintain, is one of the best DC comics. No disrespect to every other comic, but One of Tomorrow is so easily accessible and so readable. But the cast, I love that's being assembled. Like Mateus Schoenaerts, I think is inspired. I really, really love the
dude. Wait till you see how scary he is in the movie.
Because Krem is such a great villain.
He's so
He's soft, man. I always thought he was a softy. He got beat by a little girl.
Craig,
Ruth, yeah, man, Ruthie.
No, Craig has amped that character up.
Oh,
He's so
I was gonna
scary,
stop, but
and
we'll
creepy.
talk about
It's so
Krem in a
cool.
second.
Like really cool.
And the thing I'm curious about, because it's now like what Lobo represents to me is
Okay,
so fast.
we'll stop here. But it sounds like Krem is going to be a real threat in the Supergirl movie, which is good because he's the main villain of Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow. Although you see him kind of sporadically throughout the comic book. But he does do some nasty stuff, shooting Krypto with arrows and things.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. How dare you?
Really makes him a villain, I think.
You know right off the bat he's a monster.
So it's good to hear that maybe some things are good with Krem of the Yellow Hills. So I'm excited. I'm personally excited to hear that, because I think he sort of gets lost in the shuffle of the Supergirl movie, because everybody wants to talk about Lobo, and it's like, well, Lobo's still, in my opinion, kind of an overrated character.
He's not even in it, but Krem is actually in it, and I'm glad that we hear that he's going to be a scary villain, because he's not like in the every single issue a ton, but like the shadow he casts, I think, is very long throughout the run of the comic. So I think it's good that there's going to be a very like scary, very creepy Krem.
Yeah, and he plays a major part in the resolution of the story. So I'll be interested to see what they do with him as the movie progresses.
Fascinating. And I feel like Jason Momoa as Lobo is probably the single most like, well, that's casting. Like he is Lobo to me.
Jason Momoa was truly one of the first messages I got. I think that when I got the job, there was a message from Jason immediately came in. Not when I got the job, when it was announced that I got the job. It was a message immediately. It was Jason Momoa texting me saying, just all caps, Lobo baby, a billion exclamation points.
He's like, you know what to do.
Which is the most Lobo text one could send.
Yeah. And then the next one was Ryan Reynolds, and he's like, this is true. Congrats, man. That's awesome. Whatever. That's cool. And I said, want to be Green Lantern again? And it's like, fuck off.
Excuse the language to our listeners.
My follow-up about Lobo was the original draft apparently Tom King did of the story was Lobo involved in that.
Yeah.
Is there an amalgamation of that original? Like, what are you doing to incorporate Lobo without telling about the movie? Like, have you taken notes from Tom? Because I know he's working with you on Lanterns. Is there an incorporation of some of the original draft ideas of how Lobo's involved?
Tom works with me on I give Tom everything to read.
Oh, amazing.
So Tom read Creature Commandos.
Tom King,
read the second season of Peacemaker. Tom read, Superman a lot. So Tom he's one of the guys I trust, that we talk about, possible things. He's also a good comic book. He knows what pisses off comic book people because they get pissed off over certain things. But like the truth is that Woman of Tomorrow.
And I just want to stop that right there. Sometimes, for warranted reasons, I don't like it when people kind of flippantly say, "Oh, comic book fans just get ticked off," and it's like there might be a reason for it.
Sometimes there's a reason.
Sometimes people get over melodramatic about things, and it doesn't really matter. But sometimes there are warranted reasons to be upset about something.
We introduced Snapper Carr, and he never even snaps once.
That's a great reason to be upset. So I just wanted to put that out there that like don't paint the comic book fan with a broad brush.
I like that he does run things by a comic book writer and be like, will this make them angry? It does make me think that like there is some talk about like what is worth maybe, going in a different direction on, and what is just like going to make people angry for no reason whatsoever. I think that there is something comforting there, that he's like kind of got a little bit of a pulse on like comic book fans would love this. Comic book fans might not love this. Like, they're not going to always make decisions that are going to make all of us happy, but like, I don't know. I've definitely watched some stuff where it's like, I don't know, did you do that on purpose just to make people mad? Like, why would you do that? So I'm not getting the vibe that is the direction that they're going in.
I will say I appreciate the consultation on that to kind of understand the comic book side of things. But then I also think sometimes storytellers need to break the mold a little bit.
Absolutely,
you
yeah.
need to push a little bit of boundary in order to make the character grow, to make the evolution of the history progress. Like, we wouldn't have Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow if Tom King wasn't like, you know what, my Supergirl's gonna cuss and she's gonna,
Yeah,
be this
that's
great
true.
character. Because if you talk to fans of Silver Age Supergirl would never do that. Supergirl would never
that's
act
true.
like
They
that.
would be like, wait a minute, I don't like that. So I agree that I think that there should be a sort of a middle ground between doing something different and doing something that's just going to make people mad. And I think it sounds like they're being very specific and thinking about these choices like as they're making them, which is good.
Yeah, be mindful of the zeitgeist, I guess, but also don't be afraid to like tell your own story. That's my opinion. Like,
Yeah, do your thing. It's fine.
it's
Guess what?
wildly out of character, then it might be upset.
One of the things is that no matter what you do, people are going to be mad anyway. There's literally no pleasing everybody. So no matter what choice you make, there's going to be a contingent of people that are going to be angry about that choice anyway. So at some point, YOLO.
You could give a certain amount of people everything they want, and especially with Superman fans. Like, I shouldn't dog Superman fans. I really shouldn't. I am one. But I've noticed in the Superman fan community, Superman fans are never happy. So it really doesn't matter
True
what
that.
it really doesn't matter what you do. Superman fans are going to find a reason to be upset. I'm sorry to paint everyone with a broad brush. It's just been my experience. But so that is something to consider, is to be mindful of the comic book canon and those kinds of things. But I would say, tell your story. Tell whatever story you feel
Exactly.
like you should tell.
Yeah.
So
Like, don't cave just because you're like, people are going to be mean to me on the internet. Because unfortunately, people are just going to be mean to you on the internet anyway.
It's the internet. That's what it's supposed to do.
They're never going to be not mean to you on the internet.
The internet never is really that nice.
No.
So no matter what you do, they're going to be mean. So I do agree with you, Morgan, that there should be maybe a balance. Like, that's a hard balance.
You gotta balance. Yeah. I'm glad I'm not doing it.
Yeah,
but...
it's not up to us, but yeah,
No.
I wish there was a middle ground that you could please as many Superman fans as you can, but also tell a news story, which is very, very difficult. All right, we'll keep going.
Tomorrow in the comics is very much, it's a bunch of little stories. And we needed to create one through line, one 3-act, story, more traditional story. And so Lobo helps us to do that. It's not an amalgamation of him and Clark.
Okay.
He's a totally separate character. He's himself. I love Lobo. I always thought it was a great character to adapt. I think he's maybe in some ways the biggest comic book character that's never been in a film.
There may be a reason
so
for that.
I think it was a cool thing to do. Yeah.
Okay, so Morgan, I wanted your take on this. So it
Lobo.
sounds like
The Legend of Lobo.
yeah. So yeah, it sounds like instead of the little vignettes that we get in Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow, where Supergirl and Ruthie are learning different things, where they go to different places with different communities and they interact with different people and have to deal with different situations, they're going to make it a bigger through line, and they're using Lobo to do that.
Yeah, I don't know how they would use Lobo to do that. I do think to a certain extent it makes sense to I would hope that some of those storylines that are in the comics, the sort of vignette storylines, are still in there. But I do think
we
that,
can't lose Dinosaur Pond. I feel like that has
not
to
lose
be there.
Dinosaur Pond. It's so important. But I do feel like some of Woman of Tomorrow might have worked a little bit better in like a TV show format, where it's like an episode and they're doing like going to Dinosaur Pond, and then the next episode they go to some other planet. Whereas in a movie, you do traditionally want to have more of like a consistent arc. Now, I don't think that means that we won't get some of those things, or we won't get any of those things in the movie. I think that there are ways for them to work it in, but I did imagine that they were probably going to like drop a couple of the the different adventures that they went on along the way to kind of streamline it and make it feel like more of one story. How Lobo does that, though, that is unclear to me.
It does feed my fears about Lobo, because I've been very clear on this podcast. I am not a Lobo fan. I don't like Lobo. I don't understand the hype around Lobo. I don't think he's that great of a character. But my fear about the inclusion of Lobo is that he's going to take over the movie and take over the storyline between Supergirl and Ruthie, which I think is the heart of the story. And what it sort of sounded like to me, the only way I could think of is that they're either chasing Lobo through these stories and through these acts, or he's like going with them to go after Krim because he is a bounty hunter. So maybe he would also be on the Krim chase.
I think him being also on the Krim chase makes a lot of sense. I see Mind the Gap in the chat says, since Woman of Tomorrow is based on True Grit, then I wonder if it's similar to how in those movies there are two bounty hunters. I think that very well could be. I mean, Tom King definitely said that True Grit was a inspiration for Woman of Tomorrow, and if he did really intend initially to have Lobo in, and then just like, I don't think he fits in there, I could see a version of the story where it is like, Lobo is also on the hunt for Krem. Now, personally, I'm fine with that, as long as there's not as long as he's like not taking over, as long as it's not the Lobo show. I think it's fine for him to be in the story, but I just want to make sure that the relationship between Supergirl and Ruthie is the most important part of the movie and the most important part of the story.
I understand the True Grit reference and I appreciate it, but I also think he's not necessary. You could just agree with that. You could just have Supergirl and Ruthie going after Krim.
I think that they just like Lobo. Honestly, I think that's what it is. I think that they just like Lobo. I think that Jason Momoa was like, Lobo baby, and and immediately like got his way in there, and they were just so excited to have Jason Momoa Lobo. I get it. It's just like, I want maybe not in my girls movie.
Yeah, I get it. I totally get it. But he seems unnecessary. He seems unnecessary to me. If you wanted to put him like in the bar scene at the beginning or in a post-credit sequence, fine. But I don't think he's necessary to the story. All that said, we haven't seen the movie yet. We haven't read the script. Maybe there's an awesome reason for Lobo to be there, and he's crucial to be. His inclusion is crucial to the story. I don't know. But yeah, so I'm still very nervous about the inclusion of Lobo. My fears on that have not been subsided. So we'll see what happens when we get there. Okay. All right. Moving on.
The choice to cast Millie.
Millie was just talking to Peter Safran about this. When again, before we were ever hired and we were talking about it and going through ideas, I was like, Peter, you got to read this, Woman of Tomorrow. It was like, I think right when it came out. I'm like, it's really good. Listen, I love all the times, Strange Adventures is probably my favorite. I love the Mr. Miracle stuff. I love the Human Target. I mean, he's just had all these little great comic series. I like the Black Canary stuff now. I'm like, I can't wait to see what happens next week.
His Jenny Sparks is great.
Yeah, Jenny Sparks. And so, anyway, I'm like, this is great. And I'm like, he's like, well, who would you see as Supergirl? I said, you see the House of the Dragon? Who's that little blonde girl on that? Like, because I wanted her to be this little, pixie-ish, but very attitudinal, like, character. And so she was the first person I brought up. and then when we got her tape, I was like, oh, that's pretty. She's pretty good.
I kind of like the idea because, again, reading the comic, like she is very big and powerful.
Yeah.
And so I like the idea of her being kind of like a spunky little
because we
rascal.
It's Cav, right? That's the whole thing. Ruthie is the one who's telling the story.
Yeah.
And so to Ruthie, she's huge.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, we don't know what's a lie, what's not a lie. And I love like getting that perspective where we're looking at the story as it is.
Well, it was hard. You know, one of the things with casting Ruthie that was a little difficult is we had to cast somebody who was looks smaller than Millie. Millie's pretty small.
Word.
You have these 12-year-olds who come in, and Millie's like, okay. But she's amazing on the movie. And Craig is just such a...
Okay, before we get to Craig Gillespie,
I thought that was so funny because as somebody who is 5'2", everyone's taller than me. So I do think that, listen, that is a challenge, right? Like I have some of my friends have older kids, like, 10, 11 years old. They're getting to be my height. They're 11. So I'm like, I'm looking at them going like, oh my God, in like a year, you're going to be taller than me, you child. So I can imagine that actually that is would be a challenge because Millie is very short. She's very petite.
Do we know how tall? Oh, she's 5'5". I'm 5'5". She's 5'5".
That's funny because she does. I guess maybe in House of the Dragon when she's around the dragon, and there's a lot of like taller people on that show. She looks, I don't know, a little bit more petite. So yeah, like I think that's a funny challenge that they have to they're like, okay, well we have to get a Ruthie who is smaller so that Supergirl looks larger, like looms larger to Ruthie.
I don't know how I feel about the James Gunn's idea of, oh, I want her to be this like pixie-esque character, and I'm like, what does that mean? Why would you get that from Supergirl comics? Why would you get that from Woman of Tomorrow? And I think I don't know who the lady on this podcast is. She's probably like the smartest one in that whole room, just from like the clip we're looking at, because she does understand that the story is from Ruthie's point of view, and so it's that unreliable narrator, telling us things based on her perspective, and so the visuals even. You could read it as such as like, oh, the way that Supergirl is drawn or like how she's depicted on the page is actually from Ruthie's point of view and her perspective and how she sees Supergirl. But I don't know. It's a little, I don't know. That's one of those things where I guess it's one of those things where like he's imagining Supergirl from his perspective. But I've never read Supergirl and thought, yeah, she should be like a short pixie kind of character.
Yeah,
like I've never gotten that out of Supergirl.
I've never thought, wow, the one thing I think about Supergirl is she's tiny, like a little Polly Pocket. But yeah, I mean, I guess everybody's perspective on how they think about Supergirl is different. The one thing I came out of that with that made me feel like good about it was that Millie was the first person he thought of. When he was thinking about, oh, what kind of, who could we look at for Supergirl? Like the first one he thought of was like, how about that girl from House of the Dragon? Like, I think she's great. And then when her tape came in, it was that great. So I think that is encouraging that the first person that they were thinking about was Millie for Supergirl. And, I see Kenny in the chat said, so like Melissa a decade ago, Millie was the first actress to test for Supergirl. I don't know if that's necessarily true from what they said. But it does sound like she was the first person they thought of immediately.
Yeah.
Or started to think about casting.
Well, when Melissa went to audition for the Supergirl TV series, she was the first one they saw. She was the first one who came in. So I think that they were like, and we got it.
And done.
We're good.
Let's wrap it up.
So it is interesting. I think the Millie Alcock casting, I think she could absolutely nail the attitudinal, as James Gunn put it, that she would have that attitude that Supergirl would have. I have no doubt that she can play that. But I do think if you are going to play Ruthie as like a young girl, you need to have someone a little more mature and wiser, especially like the whole story is Supergirl trying to teach Ruthie not to kill and not to like go after
Yeah.
crime because of vengeance. So you have to have even like an attitude that you're a little wiser. So even if she's not like looming large height wise, hopefully she can still project that kind of personality. And I thought it was funny. I looked up Melissa Benoist's height. Benoist's
I just did that too.
and she's 5'8", so I'm 5'8.5". So I'm basically Melissa Benoist's height, and you're Millie Alcock's height.
No, I'm much shorter than Millie Alcock. 5'5". That's massive to me.
Oh, you said 5'2"?
I'm 5'2".
Okay, so
I'd be looking up at her like, my God, you're so tall.
How tall is Laura Vandervoort?
That is a good question. I don't know.
Curious.
I have never. I think you've met her, right?
Well, I've met her a couple of times, but I didn't like,
I'm
take out
seeing
a
5'6". So I feel like that's pretty average. I like that we're now judging all of this. Should we
just gonna look all who's the tallest one? Is it Helen Slater? It might be Helen Slater.
Is she taller than 5'8"?
Oh, she's 5'8", so she and Melissa are the same height.
She and Melissa. Yeah, you know what? Now that I'm thinking about the TV show, it did feel like they were like kind of eye level.
Yeah. Okay. I don't know. For some reason, I thought Laura Vandervoort was taller than that.
So we actually answered the question Kenny asked in the chat. Is Millie the smallest Supergirl actress ever to be in live action? It appears, based on our very scientific Google searching.
We did not look at Sasha Kaje. So
that's true.
Look at Sasha Kaje. What is her height? And this all could be a lie from. Okay. Oh, yeah. Sasha Kaje is 5'7". So we're depending on the truthfulness of IMDb.
So if IMDb is right, and it's never been wrong.
It's never
been wrong. She is indeed the shortest Supergirl. Again, 5'5". We're not talking my height. It's not that short. It's short, I guess, but it's not that.
But only an inch shorter than Laura Vandervoort.
Yeah, exactly.
Who always seemed very tall on screen.
Again, everyone seems tall to me, but I would agree with that.
I mean, she always felt she was right there with Tom Welling. I felt like she maybe
probably put her up on a couple of boxes.
Apple boxes were definitely used for Smallville. Yeah, so that's interesting. I never thought she was much shorter than me when I met her those times. So
maybe she had on heels.
Maybe so.
Maybe the Supergirl costume has heels.
Probably, actually. All right, let's keep going. I think he talks about Craig Gillespie.
Joy to work with. Like, listen, I love I, Tonya. It's one of my favorite movies of the past few years. And I was really excited to get to work with him. And he's been just a dream in terms of collaborating, fighting for his ground. You find sometimes when you're in this position that people either just back down too much or they, fight against everything without thinking. And he's like what I was like when I was at other studios. You listen and you incorporate, you think about everything, you consider everything, but then when you have an idea that you believe in, you really fight for it. And he's been that all the way through, and just the stuff he's getting is tremendous.
His filmography feels very similarly like a culmination leading to this, like Corella's visual design, Dumb Money's sensibilities. It feels like all roads led to Woman of Tomorrow. And I really like the directing choices, feeling like you can get a sense of tone if you know the comic. I feel like comic fans have a little cheat sheet.
Yes, totally. Yeah.
Now you also have.
Okay, so that is kind of all they talked about when they were talking about Supergirl and the woman. I shouldn't say Woman of Tomorrow movies. They call that anymore. The Supergirl movie. So that is kind of what they talked about on DC Studios Showcase. So if you would like to subscribe to it, you certainly can do that. You might get some more insights into the behind the scenes of things, including Supergirl and maybe the upcoming Superman as well. So I just wanted to go through that because they did talk some Supergirl. So still a little trepidatious about Lobo, but other than that, it sounds really like it's as
long as this isn't the Lobo show. Everything else I was hearing, I was feeling really good about. Sounds like Millie's great. Sounds like the director's great. Sounds like Ruthie is tiny or whatever. Love it. As long as we get Comet, as long as we get some Fire Wings.
Nobody asked him about Comet.
Why does nobody ever ask about Comet? My first question would be like, tell me about Comet, who I'm assuming is in the movie. And I would ask very aggressively like that.
Our questions would be so different
So
from their
good.
questions.
What all the people really want to know. That's what we'd be asking.
I would be asking about so in Woman of Tomorrow they fly through like on a rainbow bridge kind of thing, and then they go to like a black and white place, and I'm like, tell me what you think that black and white place is. I want to know what were your intentions here. So that may be a Tom King and Bilkis Evely a question at some point, but those would be like first question Comet, second question like Comet riding a rainbow. That's that's my
Now
order.
tell me, was your inspiration Rainbow Bright? Because it's my inspiration for most things.
Rainbow Bright did have a white horse.
And that horse ran on a rainbow. I'm just saying.
I'm just saying. It's too similar not to be a coincidence.
I'm just saying it's right there if you want to read between the lines.
Okay, well, those are the comments about the James Gunn interview. So let's get to Krypto, the Last Dog of Krypton, number 1. In the description for it reads, quote, "There will come a day when Krypto stands beside Superman, helping him fight off monsters, aliens, and supervillains. A day when this dog will save his adopted world thanks to the incredible powers granted to him by Earth's strange yellow sun." But he's not there yet. Today, Krypto is a normal puppy on Krypton, spending each happy, snoozy, endless day alongside his family, Jor-El, Lara, and baby Kal-El. But when a rocket test goes wrong, Krypto finds himself lost in space and soon crash landing all alone on a strange and alien world called Earth. So, Morgan, what were your initial thoughts about this comic? Were you worried that it was going to be like a comic about Krypto? Were you worried there was going to be no talking? What were your thoughts?
I love dogs. So I was just in as soon as I heard they were doing this. Also, I referenced this comic too much, but the Matt Fraction run on Hawkeye, they have one issue where Hawkeye's dog, Pizza Dog, Lucky the Pizza Dog, he loves pizza. He
Thanks for the clarification.
Thank you. I realized that I really needed to clarify his name is Lucky, but he does love pizza. They call him the Pizza Dog. But basically he goes around and he solves like a crime. He like discovers a crime and goes around and like kind of puts it together. But as a dog, like he's not talking, there's no like internal monologue. So it was like little icons. He would sniff things and he would be like pizza, pizza icon. And and it's one of the more inventive issues in that run. And it's the one that has stuck with me, years and years now, that I think about that issue. I'm like, oh man, when the dog solved the crimes, that was so cool. And so I think it's actually like a really cool choice to be like, no, he's a dog. Like he's not going to talk. He's not going to be like, arf, arf, I smell danger. He's just going to do dog things. He's going to take naps and he's going to, like, shake himself off after he crash lands in a puddle or like a river. So I think that's fun. I really like that idea. And I think from a writing perspective, it's challenging. So I was really excited to see how they were going to do it, because I do think that it's a big challenge to write a main character who cannot speak, who cannot really tell you how they're feeling or what they're thinking. And so you have to do everything through like facial expressions and body language. So I would be really interested to see like what these scripts look like that the writer is handing over to the artist, because I feel like they have to be so very specific, because Krypto is really living in the art, not as much, I mean, the writing as well, but like his facial expressions and things, that's how you understand how Krypto is feeling. And that's really all the art. So I think from a writing perspective, this is probably a pretty challenging book to put together. And I thought that was really interesting. I thought it was interesting how we get the impression of like Krypto's world from the human beings who are talking in the background. And I love the choice they made to have everything in that they're talking about be in kind of like a light gray, unless they are talking directly to Krypto, and then it is in like like a dark, bold black. So like Krypto is hearing all this, but he doesn't care. But he hears when they say his name, and
he recognizes his name when it's said.
And then he'll focus in. So like there'll be a big block of text of, you know, the human characters talking, and then Krypto will be in like all caps and like dark, but then the rest of the text around it, unless they're talking directly to him, will be gray, because he's like, I don't really care what's going on in on Krypton. Oh yeah, it's blowing up. Whatever, give me my dinner.
Yeah, that was my favorite thing about this comic, is the choice with the font, because I think it really put me in the place of Krypto a little bit, that he would recognize his name. Dogs do that. I mean, I would imagine the lab cats probably do that too. Do they know that you're talking to each of them?
Yes, they do. Bunsen specifically really likes the sound of his own name. And so I call it hyping him up, which is like if I need him to like come to me or get out from under something, I'll be like, Bunsen, Bunsen, Bunsen. And he will freak out. His tail will start shaking. He'll like walk up to me. He's like, what? It's me. So like, yeah, animals really do, like, they respond. They know their own names, and they for sure respond to it. So I love that detail where it's like there'll be a big block of text, and the only thing that's dark is Krypto, because that's the only thing he's really attending to.
That's what he recognizes. And I forgot to put it in here, so I'm just going to give a shout out to the credits here. This issue was written by Ryan North, and the artist was Mike Norton, and Ian Herring was the colorist. And I'm trying to zoom into the let's see, who was the letterer on this? I'm trying to read that. I cannot make it out. Why can I not make it out on this? I hate Comixology.
It's terrible.
It's
so terrible.
It's so bad. I'm
trying to read it on a desktop is like, you might as well just not.
Yeah, I'm determined to get this. So let me get these credits right as we go.
It looks like it's Lucas Gattoni.
I'm going to zoom in here. Let's see. Yes. Okay. Ryan North was the writer. Mike Norton was the artist. Ian Herring was the colorist. Lucas Gattoni was the letterer. And Jay Lee and June Chung did the cover. And Sabrina Futch was the editor. And Katie Kubert was the group editor. And I should have known that was Jay Lee who did the cover. I remember loving Jay Lee's Batman Superman covers. So that makes a lot of sense. Now that I looked at the credits to see who did the cover of this issue, that only makes sense. Well, okay. So Morgan, the story here is we've started out on Krypton. Krypto is hanging out at the House of L. Literally the House of L. He's kind of just enjoying his normal day. He's getting fed breakfast. He's hanging out with the fam. He's just hanging out on the couch, taking a nap. What did you think about how this version of the story is dealing with the Science Council and the debate about Krypton's existence and what's going to happen to it? What did you think about this incarnation's take on that?
I thought it was really interesting. I feel like we've seen kind of similar takes on the downfall of Krypton before, where it's, you know, the Kal-El's parents, Jor-El and Lara, they know what's up. They know what's going on. But the rest of the Kryptonian elite, or like the science councils and things like that, are just kind of in denial about it. So we're sort of in a place where we're in the L's house, and they're having sort of regular conversation. They're just like, it's going to be a matter of months. Like, we know it's coming, and everybody's still in denial. And I thought it was interesting, especially when she goes out, she takes Krypto on a walk later, and she
with his little House of L symbol on his little sweater,
adorable little House of L symbol on his like little sweater / leash thing. And he meets another dog, and they're doing doggy things and having doggy fun. And
named Nemo.
Nemo. Meanwhile, Lara is talking to the other owner, who is like, "Oh, Krypton's gonna be fine." it's that's not happening. Like it's Krypton's not in any danger really. So you kind of see what the average person in Krypton kind of thinks about the situation that's happening around them, which is that they're kind of in denial. And I thought that was interesting and a fun way to show that by having Krypto get to meet a new friend and then get dragged away when Laura's like, well, it's happening, bye.
Yeah, we're all going to die. Everything is unstable. But it seemed very normal, the dog walking in the morning to meet a new person and a new dog in the neighborhood. But things are not normal here. And one of the things they decide to do is they're trying to find a way to save millions of people. They're trying to get everyone off a Krypton and try to do what they can to save as many people as they can. But instead of just going straight to, we have a ship ready to go, they're in the testing phase. We're getting to see the testing of how they would get a ship off of Krypton. And so I guess like our space race, where we in America and I think other places around the globe put animals on spaceships to ship them up into space before they put a human being in them. Jor-El and Laura are not far off that either. So they've done some calculations and they're like, this is great. We think this is gonna totally work. And so they put Krypto in the ship as a test subject before they put any of the Kryptonians in there as well. So
sure, I feel like, isn't there like a neighbor you don't like that much that you could do instead?
I feel like you could probably talk somebody into it. Maybe pay them off. I mean, what's money in the future of 6 months? It's not gonna matter. You could pay somebody to do this.
This part of the comic legit did upset me. I think it's really cruel that they put their dog into like as a first test. They were like, this is the first crewed mission. I was like, what? Your beloved dog is the first one? You couldn't find like a mouse or something?
The dog that curled up with baby Kal-El on the couch and it is pretty wrong. They needed to keep Krypto there.
I was like, no offense, but they're monsters. I did not like it. I was like, there had to have been a middle ground between, testing out with a human or an animal or something and putting your beloved dog in there. I feel like there should have been a step before that.
They could have taken Nemo, that other lady's dog.
Yeah. I mean, Nemo not to be brutal or anything, but like, you don't know him. I also do feel like, laboratories have test animals, usually like mice or like rats. I'm not saying that the life of a mouse or a rat is less than Krypto's, but I am saying that because I love Krypto. What are you doing? Put a rat in there.
They didn't have any other animals on Krypton that they could use for this?
It's like, sorry, only really adorable dogs are your choice. What? Seeing why that planet blew up.
I'm seeing why their science council is not very smart.
Exactly. It's like you can't go to the science council and ask to borrow a test mouse. Jeez.
I'm sure they have some weird pest kind of alien creature on Krypton that they're like, we need to get rid of these animals. We don't like them here. We only have 6 months left to live. Well, let's get rid of the most annoying one.
Yeah, couldn't you go in your backyard? Don't you have Kryptonian squirrels? Like, come on, guys. Did it have to be Krypto? I thought that was particularly harsh, and I did not care for it. I also thought the whole sequence, I actually got kind of emotional, and as I was reading it, I said, no, and Mike was like, is everything okay? And I was like, not for Krypto, it's not. The sequence where he starts to get pulled into the black hole, or I don't know, is it a black hole or like a gravitation?
They called it a wormhole.
They call it a rogue wormhole that is drawing him in, and they realize that they can't get him back. There's not enough time to upload a new course, and they have no idea where it's sending him. and they can't really do anything for Krypto, and they're losing the connection. So then they start saying, they're like, this is it. And then they're like, we don't want to panic him, so we should speak normally to Krypto. And they're like, you're such a good boy. You're a good boy. We're sending you into a wormhole. I hope you do not die. We'll probably never see you again. Go bye bye bye. And I was like, I don't know why that really got me like emotionally, but I was like, oh no, that's honestly one of the more depressing things I've read recently.
Well, it is like you're saying goodbye to a loved one and you don't want them to know this is the end.
Basically,
yeah. That would be really, really hard. And Krypto seems to be okay, but like he gets really excited, and then he when he sees them, and I don't know if he can tell something is wrong. He does know that there's an error message, and I think he can sense that they're frantically trying to do something. But I don't know that he fully understands what's happened. He sees a screen that says signal lost, so they go away. He doesn't see them anymore, but then he lays down and goes to sleep. So I don't know.
I thought that was so that also got me, by the way, because there's nothing more dog than being like, all right, nap time. I do feel like in that situation, a dog would just be like, okay, well, I'm gonna take a little nap and we'll see if this thing resolves itself by the time I get
up. So he seems to roll with the punches here, and he does have a lot of punch because he does crash land out of the wormhole. And I don't know why I thought maybe he would land somewhere else. I thought it was interesting that they used a wormhole in the storyline. Of course, he does end up in Metropolis. So it's kind of the home of future Superman. So I shouldn't have been surprised, but I kind of was. Is Bunsen coming to visit?
Oh, Bunsen's coming to visit. I would never send you into a wormhole. That's my promise to you. I would send someone else's. But it would never be you.
So is that the Sophie's choice?
That I would.
If you had to send one of them off.
Oh, I couldn't do it. Bunsen, I couldn't do it. I don't know who it would be. That would be terrible. It would be neither of you. I would send Mike.
You would keep the cats.
We won't tell him. And then he sees this as a reel on Instagram.
I'm definitely cutting this as a reel and tagging him in it.
Brutal. He knows.
But yeah, so that's good to know that Bunsen would not have
Bunsen would be safe. Bunsen would be so safe.
He seems like he would be okay as long as you fed him.
Yeah, as long as there was a lot of food and like a couple of minnows in there, he would be right as rain.
Yeah. So that's good. Well, so Krypto does have some trouble as he goes, and I wanted to clarify something. I had a question for you, Morgan, just so that I understand it. The reason that they are sending Krypto out is that they're trying to map where it's going to go, so that if they send a human out, they'll know where to go and when. And so I guess as Krypto lands in Metropolis on Earth through the wormhole, they know that like if they have to put baby Kal-El in there, they know exactly where he's going to go. I guess the test worked.
Yeah, it does seem like the test worked. Yeah, I was a little unclear on that too. I thought that the original plan was just to kind of send him out to make sure that the pod worked, which in my opinion is not much better, because what if it didn't? What if it didn't, you guys? But it does. But yeah, it does. They do talk about how, how do they put it? They said, we can't launch our other prototype unless we somehow map them, not unless we have no other choice. So it does seem like mapping is like an important part of it. And that, I don't know. I guess it does seem like it kind of worked because he ends up at Metropolis, which is close to where their baby Kal-El will eventually end up.
So I'm surprised he didn't end up in Kansas, but I guess he still has to have his own journey. Krypto has to have his own journey, so he's going to get
Crypto's
him to
going through
travel
his own thing, you know?
first. So he does crash land. He does end up in the water, and then he has to kind of doggy paddle out of it. To your point, I think it's cute that he has to shake himself off, and then he kind of licks himself like a dog probably would. He does encounter some horrors when he gets to
He
Metropolis.
does, yeah. Metropolis is not kind to Krypto. He's eating out of the garbage. He's like enjoying garbage food for the first time, but he barely gets to enjoy that because somebody starts yelling at him that that's his food, and then kicks him.
Like
And
kicks him in a cartoonish way that makes him like go fully in the air with like stars.
Fly in the air. I do not care for it.
No.
And then he gets chased, and he goes through a chain link fence, but the chain link fence like cuts him, and then he almost gets run over by a car, and then a lot of people are yelling at him, which is, it's all very scary. But at the end, he does meet somebody who does feel bad for him, who's like, oh, you're just like a lost little guy. We can be friends. He finally meets a moment. Finally gets a moment of kindness in Metropolis, and it's from Lex Luthor. Dun dun dun.
I mean, it doesn't specifically say Lex Luthor. It says Lex. So this could be like Lex Smith. We don't know.
It could be. They put one of those on us.
I mean, I assume it's Lex Luthor with the red hair in Metropolis, but we don't have confirmation he's a Luthor. But I'm assuming in issue 2 we will find out this is Lex Luthor. But yeah, so I like this take on the story that maybe it's almost like an Elseworld, like if somebody from Krypto landed somewhere else and kind of grew up in a different way, almost like a Red Sun situation.
Yeah.
If Krypto landed by himself, because some stories are different where Krypto sometimes will go with baby Kal-El in the ship and they land together.
I've seen that version before.
But this story, he lands by himself and he has his own adventure, and he's kind of maybe growing up maybe with Lex Luthor, and Lex Luthor takes him in, and we'll see if that changes anything. I'm sure it's going to be fine. I don't think Lex Luthor is going to do anything bad to him. I'm sure it's
not
going
to
to be great.
Krypto.
It's going to be totally great.
Mind the Gap actually brings up a good point, which I was also a little bit confused with. Mind the Gap says Lex Luthor Sr. Look at the cars. They look older. I also noticed that too. The cars look like they're from, I want to say, like, I don't know, like the 40s or the 50s almost.
Yeah, there is a master builder store behind them. The clothes look maybe like it's maybe 40s, 50s, something like that. So that is a good point. It could, the car that screeches at him definitely looks like it's probably from the 40s. So the interesting thing is, Krypto goes through a wormhole. So we don't know where or when he could be. So he could have time traveled.
That's a good point. I think they even say something about that where they're like, we don't know when or where he'll end up. It says there's no time to upload a new course and no way to know where it's sending him or when, like bold, which should have been like maybe the hint that he might be going, I don't know, he might be going back in time.
So that could be kind of interesting if he is Lex Luthor Sr. or something of that nature, that maybe
he becomes a Luthor family dog passed down through the generation.
maybe he some stories, baby Kal-El or young Kal-El grows up with Krypto, and Krypto kind of helps him as he ages. But maybe in this story, Krypto is under little Lex, and little Lex and Krypto grow up together. Could that make Lex grow up to be a different person? Could he?
Ooh.
I mean, if you had Krypto around, how could you become a bad guy?
That is a good question. I cannot imagine it.
So that is a really good point. So either this is like Lex Luthor Sr. or this is Lex Luthor in a different time period. So this could just be like, what if Superman grew up in the 1940s? It could be that too. I don't know. Well, I guess we'll see in issue 2. But do you have any other thoughts, Morgan, about this issue that we didn't get to?
I really enjoyed this one. I like that that we got to see everything from Krypto's perspective. I like that he though you got a real feel for Krypto's personality, that he's just like a happy-go-lucky guy, that he's very resilient. He just crash lands on Earth and he just kind of shakes himself off and goes, "Okay, there's trash to eat." And I really like the twist at the end that some version of some Lex, we don't know who, is the only one who's nice to our little Krypto. And I was like, twist. So it really, this story where it's focused on a dog who doesn't have dialogue, I wouldn't have expected there to be a big twist at the end that would make me really want to come back for issue 2. And I think it's really impressive that they did do that. I was very surprised at the end, and I was like, I got to have issue 2 now. I got to see where they're going with this story.
I always like it when there is a different take on these kinds of stories. And so we've seen the ship leaving Krypton a million times. That's an over exaggeration, but it feels like a million times where we've seen this story play out where either a baby Kal-El or not baby Kara, usually teenage Kara, is shipped off of Krypton and comes to Earth. And so we get to see what happens to Krypto, and he has maybe a different outcome. And I like this because I have no idea where it's going, and I'm excited to see what would happen if Krypto is influencing young Lex Luthor, and how could that change him? What could happen to them in that adventure? So I'm excited to see where it goes from here, because I genuinely have no idea, and I hope baby Kal-El makes it off. Hopefully, Krypto's adventure helps Jor-El and Lara figure out the ship situation for baby Kal-El, and so. Actually, Krypto's a hero. He sort of sacrificed himself.
As we all knew already.
He sacrifices himself so that they're able to send baby Kal-El and save his life as well. So I think Krypto is to be acknowledged in that way as a hero. So I think this is a great story. I'm so glad that we're able to read it and get a little more into this character who definitely deserves his own comic book title, and I'm glad to see that he got it.
About time that Krypto got his own book.
I think so. Well, and I should say the art is very good. I really liked the panel of Krypto sort of hugging baby Kal-El as he sleeps.
That one's so cute.
Because I would assume that Krypto sees baby Kal-El as just another puppy. Like he's just another dog. He's not like he probably doesn't see him as a human. He probably sees him as like another puppy. So
yeah.
So it's a very cute book in terms of the visuals, but I think the story is also very clever, and the way they went about it, especially with the font and the perspective of Krypto hearing his own name, I think it was really clever and smart. So I'm excited to read the next one. So hopefully everybody picked it up, and maybe we'll get to issue 2 when it comes out.
And now I'm trying to remember if this was like has a specific run. I feel like they might have. Did they announce that there's? I'm wondering if it's like a Woman of Tomorrow, where we know how many issues it's going to be, or if it's just going to be a continuing.
I would hope that they would cap this so they could tell a full story, but I actually don't know.
Oh, it looks like it's 5 issues. I just found an article from DC.com. It says through the 5 issues of Krypto, the last dog of Krypton. He's going to explore Earth in search of his family.
So it is going to be a self-contained story, which is nice. And it sounds like we will get the end to it. So that's also nice. I really like that. I'm glad that DC is moving in that direction of doing more of those kinds of stories, so that we actually get a complete story and it doesn't go crazy like Rebirth did.
I don't know what you're talking about. What goes crazy? No, and I like that too, because I think that with specific characters and titles, you can do a Woman of Tomorrow, and that can run for like a year or something, and then you could give somebody else the keys to Supergirl, and you can say, okay, you have 12 issues, or you have 8 issues or 24 issues or whatever it is, tell your story. And then I feel like it feels like that can cycle in different perspectives and different takes on the character a little bit more coherently than when you have an ongoing and then your writer or your artist drops out and you have a new writer or a new artist, and suddenly, as we experienced in Rebirth, it felt like we were reading a completely different take on the character suddenly, like halfway through a run. So I think I kind of like these limited issue runs, these shorter runs where I know it's going to be 8 issues or 10 issues or however many issues, 5 issues going in. And that then I feel very confident that they're going to tell a complete story.
And it makes it easier for the viewer, and I'm sure the creative team likes it a little better because they actually get to tell a beginning and a middle and an end the way they want to tell it, instead of having to cross over with some other thing that's heavy death metal, whatever they called it.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so they don't have to cross over with anything. They have this self-contained story. And then for the reader, it's nice because you're like, oh, well, I only have to read 5 of these and I can read a complete story. I could give this to somebody as like a present and say, here's a story about Krypto the Superdog. And you could do this. So I really like this, and I hope they continue to do more of these kinds of stories.
And I think for people who aren't super comic book people, who have like, these big histories with comic books, it can be a little daunting to try to jump into something that is however many issues, 50, 100, thousands of issues in. You're like, you don't know where to start. It gets overwhelming. You fall down a Google rabbit hole. You decide to just give up. And I'm not talking about this from experience, but I am, because I do this a lot, where I'm like, oh, I really want to know more about this character or that character or this storyline. I'm like, where would I start? Oh, do I start with that one? No, I think the other one's ahead of that one. Wait a minute. Why don't these have a reasonable ordering system? And then I just straight up give up. So the nice thing about these limited runs is that, I bought the beautiful, shiny collection of Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow. That's it. I don't have
that's all you need.
I don't have to cross-reference a couple of different websites to figure out which collected edition I need to get.
There are no editor's notes where you have to go down another rabbit hole for something.
We hope. What if Krypto has an editor's note that's like, all of this will be explained
in Superman number 821, and you'll have to read another 4-issue series after that to get the full, complete context.
Mind the Gap is making a point that already the new Supergirl is referencing House of Brainiac. Yes. This is the fun, but also the aggravation, depending on your personality, of reading, ongoing titles, is it'll be like, oh, remember when this thing happened? And the editor's note will be like, you don't, because you haven't read it. You're right.
I'm going to have to go read House of Brainiac now.
Stanley has a counterpoint, which is that sometimes you need a long ongoing series to dive deeper. And I would agree with that. But it can be very hard to have jumping on points for people if you're like 5 years in or something. You're like, oh, where do I start it? It's like, oh, you need to start with this volume, but then you have to cross-reference the special event, which is this other volume, and then you can go back to this volume. But they changed the numbering at this point. It's like you watch the light go out of someone's eyes when you have to try to explain that. And it's usually me going, you know what? Never mind. I'm good.
I remember when I was first getting into Supergirl comics specifically, and I picked up all the Sterling Gates books. There were 4 of them. And when I was talking to Michael Bailey over at Superman homepage, he's also Fortress of Baileytude podcast. He was telling me, oh yeah, in that time period, there was also this oh my gosh, why am I blanking on the storyline. It was about Krypton, New Krypton was the storyline. And so he was like, well, what you should do is you should also read this New Krypton storyline. So it was like, okay, well, how many volumes are that? And they were like, I don't know, 2 or 3 volumes of that. And so I was like, okay, but so do I read the New Krypton in between this story? Like, where does it come in? So I had to like line it up like chronologically so that I could understand the order and so I could understand the story. And it did help. There were parts that did help, but it's frustrating where you can't be like, okay, there's 4 Supergirl trades. That's all you need.
That's it.
That's all you need.
And then you got the beginning, the middle, the end.
Yeah.
No, you didn't. Not without the extras. And I put this on the comic publishers. I think that they should, if they're going to do it like this, they should be making guides for the readers.
I think that's a great idea.
That's like, you want to hop on board. Here are the exact things that you need to buy. Because sometimes they'll be like, oh, it's this thing, and this thing. But then when you look them up, they've reissued them with new names or something. And you're like, is that the same thing as this? Or there's like different issues in the different collected editions. And you're like, wait, if I get this one, am I missing something? I think that they do this just to drive you insane. And it works.
I think that's a great idea to have like an ordered list.
Yes.
Like an official DC ordered list. I like that idea.
For somebody who is a completist, comics is like the one thing that slowly drives me insane. It's like, you kind of can't be. You kind of got to live and let live when you're doing comics. And like, I truly just can't do it. I don't know where it starts. I don't know where it ends.
Yeah, I think that is a great idea. Well, so we have 5 issues of The Last Dog of Krypton. So that is good to know. Well, if nobody else has any other thoughts, I think that's going to do it for this episode of Supergirl Radio. If you would like to contact us, you can post a comment on our website at supergirlradio.com. You can email us at supergirlradio@gmail.com. You can like us on Facebook and follow us on X and Instagram, all at Supergirl Radio. If you like what we do, we encourage you to give us a rating and write us a review on Apple Podcasts or anywhere that you listen to podcasts. Supergirl Radio is part of the DC TV Podcast and Multiverse of Color Network, so definitely go check those out. You can hang out with us as we go live and wired on Tuesday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern on the DC TV Podcast YouTube channel. We'll be taking a little bit of a break over the next 2-3 weeks. I think it's 3 weeks. But we will have in your audio podcast feed as well as the DC TV Podcast YouTube channel, we will have the full Odette Annable and the full Annie's Fairweather Q&As from Superman Celebration. So you'll be able to get to listen to those in full. We kind of covered like the highlights on Supergirl Radio and our Superman Celebration recap, but you'll get to hear the entire thing. So that will be coming both in the audio and with the video. And there'll be the video will premiere on Tuesdays per normal, Tuesdays at 9 p.m. Eastern. And then you'll get your podcast audio feed on Thursday as the intended usual. Sometimes I'm a little late on it, but usually it happens Thursday morning. So be on the lookout for that. So you won't miss us too much while I'm going. Morgan just got back from vacation. I'm about to go on vacation.
Ships passing in the night.
So we take 2 breaks a year, once in the summer and usually, and once during the holidays at the end of the year. So this is kind of our summer break time. So you get almost basically an episode per week usually, but in the summertime we do take a break. So it helps us stay refreshed, and so we can come back, and we'll have some big episodes when we come back. I'm taking vacation, which I did not. This was planned a long time ago, so I did not intend it to be when the new Superman movie release. So we'll have our Superman movie review a little bit late, probably I think end of July or early August. I can't remember when the first time we're coming back is. But we'll let everybody know when that is. I'm a fun fact. I may try to see the Superman movie in England, which will be a little bit of a different experience. My aunt and uncle said something about how in England, somebody can fact check me, doesn't serve popcorn in their movie theaters.
What?
I know. I was like, do I even want to go now? What is this? Why are you anti-popcorn?
You go in and all you can get is fish and chips. You're like, what?
No, I don't want that. I want popcorn. So I don't know how I'm going to feel about the British theater movie going experience.
I need you to report back if you have to eat something very strange in these theaters.
What is that stuff that in
They're like, all they'll give you is figgy pudding.
the Chronicles of Narnia, where
Turkish delight.
Turkish delight. I tried Turkish delight one time. I was like, nope, never again.
Isn't it like very sticky or something?
I just remember it being gross and I didn't like it. And I was like, why does Edmund like these? I don't understand it. So yeah, I will not be eating Turkish delights in the movie theater while I watch the Superman movie. But we shall see what happens. I'll report back about that experience if I get to do it. But even if I don't, I'll once I return back to the United States, I will definitely be watching the new Superman movie. Okay, so the other thing I will mention is that DC TV Podcast has a TeePublic store. So if you're in need of some new DC TV or DC Comics or DCU related t-shirts, tank tops, sweatshirts, magnets, tote bags, pins, phone cases, pillows, or stickers, go to supergirlradio.com and click on the TeePublic store link at the top of the page.
And since the new Superman movie is coming up, we have some designs in the DC TV Podcast TeePublic store that will let people know that you went to the theater, but just for Supergirl.
You have
which
to
is
let them
important.
know. Yeah.
I really need to put in my order so that it gets here in time for me to wear this to the theater when I go for Supergirl.
Yeah. Everything's going to say Superman on it, but you have to
not
let
me.
them know. You have to let them know what you're going to see the Superman movie for. So that'll be exciting. Okay, well, we would also like to thank our Legion of Super Sponsors for supporting the Supergirl Radio Patreon. These people are Michael, Anne-Marie, Yvonne, Nicola, Abby, Miriam, Nicole, Brian, Ethan, Majubi, Annie, Rachel, and Kit. If you'd like to become a Legion of Super Sponsor, you can go to patreon.com/Supergirl Radio. If you would like to follow me on the interwebs, you can do those in a couple of places. I'm on a platform called Vero True Social at Derby Kid over there. It's my favorite social media platform. I share what I'm listening to, what I'm watching. I recently watched the Netflix documentary Quilters, which I would recommend. It was very, very good. Actually, not a very long watch, but a great insight into a group of guys who work in a prison who make quilts for kids in foster care. And it was a really, really good story about what they're doing there. So you would know what I'm watching and listening to if you follow me on Vero. I'm on Instagram at the Derby Kid. You can follow pictures and things I like to share over there. I am also on Instagram at Oasis Broom. If you want to follow my travels, you can do that. You can see where I'm going. Let's see. I'm on YouTube at youtube.com/duckmilkprod. That's my personal YouTube channel, which I need to get back to getting content on. But those are the ways that you can follow me on the internet.
And you can find me on various places at Mojotastic. You can also find me as a co-host on the Legendary Ladies podcast, which you can find at the Legendary Ladies on Instagram and YouTube, where we are posting up our podcasts visually, like we are on Supergirl Radio. And our last podcast, we actually had a special guest. We did an interview with Tim Seeley about Revival, which is his comic book series, which was just turned into a sci-fi show with Winona Earp's Melanie Scarfano. So that was a really fun interview. I think we have an episode coming up either this week or next week. I'm not sure what the topic is, but we'll have a lot of fun stuff coming up in the next month or so. I think we might talk Spartacus. I think we might even talk Superman. I don't know. So you should definitely check us out.
Yeah, I would be curious how the Legendary Ladies feel about the new Superman movie.
It's a big thing that's coming out, and I think we're all going to end up seeing it. So I do feel like there will be an episode.
Or would you talk about the marketing for it? I would also be interested in how you feel about that, because I've noticed they've leaned real heavy. I don't know if this is across the board what movie studios are doing now, but there's been a lot of like meme social media
trends.
Yeah,
they're getting
into trends.
They're doing all the trends.
And some of them are okay, and then I'm like, that was no, stop. What you're doing is not good. Stop doing it. That thing where you have to, there's words on the screen and you have to like point to it in the rhythm.
Oh, I didn't see that.
I also
one.
saw the cast of the new Reba McEntire show doing it too, and I was like, I hate everything about this.
That's too much.
It's like repeated over and over again, and I was like, I don't get it. Maybe I'm old. I'm sure this came from somewhere that's very popular, but I think it's stupid. I don't like it.
I did see them do the thing where they the trend where like your boyfriend or girlfriend is like super into something and you're like, you have to be nice to them, and then the spouse or something comes up and it's like, I'm really into sticks, look at my big that's one of the ones that we saw on TikTok. It was like a guy who had like was really into sticks, and the wife was like, you be nice to him about his sticks, and then she steps back and he's like, this one kind of looks like an eagle, and this and they did one of those, but it was Rachel Brosnahan and Nicholas Hoult, and they were like, he's really excited about Superman, so you be nice to him. And then he steps back and he was like, oh my God, guys, Superman, I'm so excited. And then they're like in the background, like, nice. I thought that was cute.
I have seen that. I thought it was just kind of one-off video. I didn't know it was a trend, but there was another video I saw where a lady said something about, my husband really likes Pokemon cards, so you be nice to it. And so like he gets in there and he shows all of his Pokemon cards.
You would not believe this one. The sticks one killed me though, because they literally were just like big sticks. And he was like, this one's beautiful. And she's like in the background, like, it is.
Okay, that trend I will allow.
I was like, okay, this trend's really good. I'll give them this one. Yes, yeah. I do agree. Some of the trends that they're like these movie studios are jumping on, I'm like, do we need to? But that one was fun.
Yeah. Okay, well that's good to know. But I would be curious to hear your thoughts on some of that stuff. Like they've been using AI for some stuff. It looks like, putting the Superman logo in various places around the world, and I saw that in London, which I'm gonna have to look for, they've like hung a Superman.
I did see that.
Did
they really do that, or is that like,
I don't know if that's AI or if it's like they went up there and like attached like a Superman figure.
I feel like I would be panicked all the time when I saw that and be like, oh my God, someone's jumping.
So I don't know. I'll be looking for it. They also have some murals in England.
Yeah,
they're like Superman murals. So I don't know if we'll see any of those.
Your travels, see if you see some Superman marketing material.
They were like, Rebecca's going to England, so we're gonna leave a lot of stuff
there for her.
we put Supergirl in the movie just so she would go, but or at least we think Supergirl's in the movie. We don't have confirmation.
We don't have confirmation yet, but we're wearing the shirt.
We're pretty sure. We're pretty sure though. So yeah, it's been interesting to see how movies are marketing their movies these days, as they're trying to get people to come back to the theater. We'll see how it does. The Lilo and Stitch live action marketing
very
good,
and the movie did really good too.
It did really well. It's hard though, because they actually made like Stitch come to life during the press junkets. And I was like,
so cute.
They used that Turtle Talk with Crush technology, I think.
I think so too. Yeah,
it looked a lot like that. So I don't think they could do something. Well, they could have done that with Krypto.
What if they did it with Krypto?
They could have done it with Krypto.
There's still time.
I was like, they really can't do that with Superman because he's right there.
He's like a real person. But
he's like, but Krypto, you could have maybe done that. So I think that's very creative. So it's interesting how people are trying to get attention these days. So good for them, I guess. All right. Well, this is gonna do it for this episode of Supergirl Radio. But until next time, I'm still Rebecca Johnson.
And I'm still Morgan Glennon, and we're sure everything will work out just fine between Lex and Krypto.
McGurk! I love typing.
Not mess with my Google Docs, Meeksy.
Supergirl Radio is going live every night of the week. How do you like it? Is becoming a human burrito a plus or a minus? I don't know. It does seem snug.
I mean, they say you are what you eat.
Kira. I love that.
So I do a podcast called Supergirl Radio, and one of our segments is Lena Luthor, Boardroom or Ballroom, because
she looks like a boss in this coat.
Nasty Luthor like a different Luthor? It's not just Lena being mean?
No.
Helen Slater here. So fun to know that you're hosting a podcast called Supergirl Radio.
Yeah!